Hi guys, welcome to Facebook Live. I'm your host, Rose.
And I'm your host, Lauren.
And we're here at Penn Foster, and we're talking about today's topic is going to be secrets to being a successful student, and that's for Penn Foster and beyond. So if you have any friends who maybe are thinking about going back to school, make sure to like and share this with them. Secrets to being a successful student is something we all really could use every now and again in our life. So Lauren, before we totally jump in, what are a few do's and don'ts while we are here having a conversation with everyone today?
So if you are a current student and you have any tips or any questions on what helps you succeed, what works for you, what doesn't work, leave them in the comments. We want to hear from you this whole time, so please talk to us. But don't share any of your personal information in the comments because then that is public. So if you have anything that you'd like to say or ask that involves sharing your personal info, just send us a direct message right to this Facebook page or give us a call. You can call Student Services at 1-888-427-1000 or call admissions if you're not a student yet at 1-888-427-6500, and we'll be happy to talk to you one-on-one. So Rose, what are we really going to get into today?
So, well, a few things we want to get into today is, first of all, being a successful student is out of this world. As you can see from our awesome backgrounds today, we're going with the theme. As we're gearing up for the new year, it's a great time to start thinking about what it means to become a student, what it means to be a successful student, what it means to become a graduate eventually, because we're getting into goal season. So today we're going to be going over what it means to be a successful student, study tips, finding balance in work, life, and school, how to stay focused and motivated, and how to celebrate your wins. So Lauren, to you, what does it mean to be a successful student?
So the first thing I feel like a lot of us think of when we hear successful student is straight A's, perfect grades. Right. That to anyone who's getting straight A's and perfect grades, you are amazing. But that isn't always a measure of success. And I think it's important to know that success can be found in other ways. Being successful can simply mean that you're passing your classes. Maybe you're in a class or you took a class that is something that's a little bit outside of your comfort zone and you knew that it was something that was going to be a challenge. It wasn't exactly what you were good at, but you came here to learn and to try. And, you know, you're putting yourself out there and you're doing your best. And if you don't get an A, that's okay. If you're passing and you're learning and you're getting something out of it, that is success.
That's a really good point because I always struggled with math. And a lot of times when it came to going back to school, I was always afraid I couldn't get over the math hurdle. That always made me feel very not confident in everything else, even the areas that I do well. I'm wondering what you guys out there, where are some areas that you feel maybe you were hesitant to go back to school or you are hesitant to go back to school because of areas that you find challenging? Because I really think it's true, Lauren, like you said, just because you find a topic challenging, it doesn't mean that you're not taking a lot away from it once you're finished. And you don't have to get an A in order to learn a lot from it. And, you know, there is success in just learning a lot from a class. So, Lauren, what's an area where you struggle?
When I was in school, I took a class on Python, which is like a computer programming language. And I'd never done that before. My brain just does not work like that. So I did not well. My grade was not good in that class. But at the end of the day, I was really happy that I took it because I stepped outside of my comfort zone and I tried to learn something new. And I did gain so much of an appreciation and a much better understanding for programming and coding languages. So I was glad that I took it, even though it didn't do well for my GPA.
Well, maybe it's not a critical part of your career path, but it definitely still supported where you're going. And I think that's a lot of our curriculum. That's sort of the way things work. So unfortunately, you know, for me, when you go back to school, sometimes there's going to be a math class because a lot of things boil down to math. Anything that has a number like a business,
Yeah.
you're going to need some math. Reading and writing, the same things, information literacy, all things that are essential. Even if you're not going to necessarily ace those topics, you still need to know the ropes, and you need to be a little bit familiar, even if, you don't necessarily like nail it and get an A+.
Absolutely. And I think with that, there is a lot of credit you should give yourself if you are taking a class that's a little bit harder than, what you wanted maybe, but you studied really hard and you still got a good grade on your exam or a good grade on your assignment. That is huge. If it was something that didn't come easy to you and you put it in the hard work to cross the finish line, pass, get it behind you, and get something out of it, you deserve a pat on the back for that for sure.
It's true, because it's so much easier to give up when stuff is hard than to see it through. So that really is a success right there. I don't know about for you, but for me, it's just like, if I know I could start something and complete it and do the best job I could possibly do, I still feel more confident and better about myself. Better than quitting. It's always like you got to keep going. You got to stick with it. You got to make it happen. Even if it's your best is maybe not as good as some other people's bests in that area, it's still your best and you should still be proud of it. And we will definitely be touching base on that a little bit later on when we talk about celebrating our wins.
Definitely.
But I think a really good place to start with becoming a successful student is trying to figure out what kind of learner you are. So I think that's a really big piece of, if you're maybe not a strong visual learner, maybe you need to listen more. And everyone has different learning styles. I was thinking about this the other day. You know how it seems like we associate reading with intelligence, like all the time, right? We are always saying like, oh, that person reads a lot of books, they do a lot of reading. Reading is a human invention that we created that isn't something that we instinctually do. It's something that we learn to do. So if that's a difficult area for you as far as learning, find other ways to learn. Like sometimes, audio aids or visual aids, things like that. Being a kinesthetic learner, like touching, that might help, like a lot of hands-on stuff. I know with like our vet tech in externships, I'm stumbling over the words today. The externships give you hands-on experience, and it really does help you learn. A lot of people learn in that sense because that hands-on experience is a different thing. So jumping into some different types of learning styles, we have a visual learner. So you prefer using pictures, images, and spatial understanding. We have an oral learner, and that's AURAL. You prefer using you prefer using sound and music. I don't know if you've ever done this, but have you ever done like a study, like you try to study, Lauren, and you like make it into a little song?
No, but I can see that that's something you do.
It's absolutely something that I have done. So I guess I do like using auditory tools in order to learn.
Yeah, that might be one of your learning styles.
Yeah. Verbal is another style. So you prefer using words both in speech and in writing. Physical, so you prefer using your body, your hands-on, sense of touch. That's what we were talking about with like sort of people in some of our programs that have externships. Logical, you prefer using logic, reasoning, and systems. And I feel like this is what you were saying, Lauren, about those learners that did really well with Python and coding and programming, that kind of learning style. Social, of course, for those of us who like working on team projects, we do better having a study buddy. We like having people around to keep us motivated. And then there's the solitary types that do much better when they are working on their own. They have a little bit more control and they have peace and quiet and can just do some of that self-study. So I think determining where you fall into those areas can help you better plan out how you study and how you be a successful student going down the road.
Let's drop in the comments what type of learner you are.
Yeah, those again, visual, oral, it's hard to pronounce, AURAL, which is auditory. Verbal, physical, logical, social, and solitary. And I think you could be a combination of many of those things. So share with us what you think you fall into. I'm definitely a bundle of those.
Yeah. What are you, Rose?
I think it's tough. It depends on the topic, but I'm a little bit social and solitary. It does depend. When I need that steady focus, I need it to be a solitary learner. But I think, work better in more hands-on situations, working alongside of people. I think I learn really well by watching other people doing it and, getting in there and trying the different things and having people guide me. And I think I'm a strong learner in that way. How about you?
I'm definitely more solitary than social. I feel like I really struggle to get things done if I feel like people are watching me or if I have to concentrate on talking to people and working at the same time. Aside from the Python stuff, I feel like logical, actually. Like if I ever took like a math or a science class in school, I would have to understand the why or else I would never understand it. Like I couldn't just memorize something to know it.
I feel the same. I feel the same way with learning. I want to know the mechanics, the ins and outs of why I need to learn. I mean, that's the thing about math. It's like, why do I have to learn this, like this theorem? Like, what is the point of this? When am I ever going to apply it? And then when you find out ways that you do need to apply things, like, trying to figure out if I'm going to do a patio in my backyard, and I had to figure out the area of a triangle. I'm like, oh, if I still remember that would really come in handy. Now I have to look it up.
I know, you're going to have to reteach yourself. Yeah. But knowing your learning style can be really helpful in figuring out how best you're going to retain information, and how you can really make sure that you know what you're learning, you're studying the right way. Like if you're a verbal learner, you can use a browser extension or an app to read your study guides aloud and help you remember. Or you can have somebody else read your notes to you. You could read your notes to somebody else, something like that. If you're a visual learner, you can write your notes by hand, and that might help you remember. If you're a logical learner like Rose and I, you could come up with different situations through which to apply what you're learning and see if that helps you retain it. So figuring out what you do best can help you learn better.
Yeah, and if you're a social person, of course, don't forget the student community. You could find a study buddy there. Don't forget Facebook. You could find a study buddy right here. Sometimes it does help to have, just someone, pushing you along. And then for those who are solitary, I think you got this down.
Yeah. Especially right now where you can't go out and see other people, really. You're thriving, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about the importance of, now that we know what kind of learners we all fall into, and we've explored that a little bit, setting study goals is one of those things that I think it can be overwhelming because it's almost like, how big do I go? Laura, do you have any tips on just like how to set some decent study goals that will keep people on track?
I think you have to get realistic with yourself. You have to look at your schedule, know how much energy you have at what time of the day, and then give yourself some deadlines. Of course, one of the best things about being an online student is that it's flexible. You can study on your own time. But that being said, you probably know that you're not really going to accomplish, moving through your program unless you set some goals for yourself and set some deadlines for yourself. So I would start by picking a time of day or which days of the week are going to be the best bets for you to have a good study session. And then really set aside that time and look at it like studying is a definitive plan. Like make it something concrete so that if somebody is like, oh, can you come here or do this or be involved with something else, you say, no, this is my study time. It's already a plan, and be firm with yourself with that schedule. And then if something happens that interrupts your study time, what you've allotted for that, then make sure you have a plan immediately of when you're going to make up that work so that you don't miss your study goals. And you can still, I'm sure all of you have a date by which you hope to graduate, and you don't want to lose sight of that. So it is kind of important to give yourself those milestones to know when you're going to complete certain courses, take certain exams so that you can meet that overall goal. And you have to plan for that. So write it down, put a reminder in your phone, make it a plan, set it in stone so you can do it.
I like that rhymed so much. Oh. You rhymed phone with stone.
Didn't realize this was happening.
Yeah, it just sounded really, really good, Lauren. You nailed it. I do think that it's interesting that in order to be a successful student, you have to be realistic about who you are and what your challenges are, what you find to be obstacles, and where your strengths are. And I think that's important because I don't know how you ever felt, being in school with others and kind of seeing how other people are performing and comparing them to you. Like, that's not going to get you anywhere. That's not going to bring you success, is looking at how other people reached it, because you're a totally different person. And there's always tips and things you can take from other people. It's always good to look a little bit to those other people for advice, but beating yourself up over, maybe the type of learner that you are, if you're a different type of learner than somebody else, that doesn't mean that you're not as able and that you won't be as successful. So just always keep that in mind. Get to know yourself a little bit better, have some confidence in yourself, feel good about yourself. And that really is a big tip towards staying on track and being successful.
Rose, another big topic I think you should speak to a little bit. Of course, a big part of studying, as always, is taking notes and taking good notes.
True.
So what are some tips for taking actually good, useful notes?
So there's two different ways that we all take notes now in 2020, I think. I guess there's three, but we could either type things out, you could write things down, or you can leave yourself voice notes if there's little things that you feel like if you heard it said back, it's going to stick a little bit better in your mind, for those auditory learners out there. So if you're writing your notes down, let's focus on a couple of things for that. So make sure that your notes are legible. Don't write so fast that it's just, chicken scratch and you can't understand what you wrote, because then you're going to be slowing down even more with comprehension. So you want to make sure that your notes are legible. If you can utilize any digital note taking apps, why not? Here we are living in the future. So we could use all the resources. Even. Yeah, here we are out in space. So any digital apps that can help you, a quick Google search, you could probably easily find something that would work for you as far as note taking. And a lot of phones have notes that you can use on your phone if you like taking notes with your phone. Also, even if as you're taking notes, it's a little tricky, I think, like, what do I actually write down? Like, there's so much information here. You don't want to write everything down, because then that's the same as your text, right? So what really would be the point of that? Unless actually writing each and every word out would help you learn, I would say focus on the areas, the really big picture ideas in your text. And you can usually find those things because they're bold, or, there's a sentence that might just be written in a way that sounds like a very concrete fact. As you're going along and you're finding these little chunks of information, you want to just write them out, or write out the summary of what that paragraph means in 1 or 2 lines in your notes. So it's not like, you have to sift through all of these lines of text in order to get to the main theme of that paragraph. Just quick summarize it, write that down as a note. And if there's anything that really wants a definition, something that that's going to come up in your test, that's going to be like, what's the capital of Djibouti? Djibouti, by the way. You want to write those things down that are definitely more of the concrete memorization. Anatomy classes are like that. Like, you have to just know the exact, what's the name of that bone? You need to know that stuff. But otherwise, summarize what you're reading, and write down notes based on those summaries. Also highlight, if you have a physical highlighter and you have a physical textbook and you have physical notes, just go through and highlight some of the areas instead of having to rewrite again if that's not necessarily your style. And I do believe that a lot of our texts and PDFs, you can highlight in them as you're going through your studies. So be sure to use all of those tools that are presented with you. And don't forget Google extensions. I do have this really awesome Google extension that I use for my courses, and it reads out all the text for me. And it's a little robotic. I forget the name of it right now, but if you do a quick Google search of like read for me or something like that, it will read whatever web page that you have. So sometimes I will leave my laptop next to me. I might be getting ready for something, and I will just have it read everything. And it's a little, it could be a little choppy at times, but it's super helpful. And it's a great way if you even just have your computer read that for you a few times instead of you having to physically read it. Again, I guess I'm an auditory learner, but it does help you just kind of pick it up on the periphery. If you're like, I have to get ready to get somewhere, you can hear the notes come to you from another voice. And it's, I just think, extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of other voices, notes tip that I would have, or I guess just one study tip that I would have, not necessarily with taking notes, is whenever you're studying, whenever you're working, let your family and friends or anyone who lives with you know that you're working so that you don't hear other voices of people interrupting you, because that makes it really hard. You can be in such a good flow, and then the distraction of hearing like mom or hey, like come help me with something, like that's going to throw you right off track. So I think it's so important to let people in your life know this is my study time. Do not disturb.
Absolutely. So also, speaking of, I was talking about, getting ready and having a Google extension read your text for you. The getting ready part, the hurrying part, the fitting in school into your life, especially at this time of year. There's less going on this time of year, but there's still stuff going on this time of year. We still all have families, and it does make things, and friends, and it does make things a little bit more hectic. So Lauren, what do you think about, as far as balancing work and life and school? What are a couple of just quick tips on how to juggle those things and not lose your mind?
Yeah. Watch our last or one of our more recent Facebook Lives on how to stay sane when you're overwhelmed. That's tip one. But other than that, I mean, like you said, Rose, like this is a totally overwhelming time of year. And honestly, outside of this time of year, things can still get overwhelming quite frequently when you have a lot going on.
Especially 2020 is itself an overwhelming year. Just be in 2020.
Yeah. Step number one, acknowledge that things are hard and that it's hard to, balance it all sometimes. And be, again, like realistic with yourself on how to set up your schedule for success. So setting a schedule, I think is important. Figure out like what hours and times of the day that you're free. How much time do you have to spend on different things? Set time to study, set time to spend with your kids, set time to call your friends. Of course, you probably have time that's preset for work or anything else going on, but, use a physical to-do list, use your calendar, whatever you need to do to plan, so that, you're going to be okay time-wise.
And also, even a day to plan. I think one of the tricky things about planning is like, all right, planning, sure, but who has the time? Mm-hmm. I think if you plan time to plan, silly as that sounds, it could be a couple of hours. I know a lot of people like to do their grocery shopping on a Sunday because it kind of kicks off the week. If you tied in an hour or maybe even a half hour of just planning your week and your study schedule on your planning half hour of that week, it might really help you stay on track. So that's another thing to consider, that even just planning to plan is a big step in the right direction.
One tip that I use frequently is I like to write down my to-do list, and what I will do is number my to-do list or like asterisk the most important things, because sometimes I'll look at my to-do list and get overwhelmed and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many things. How am I going to accomplish all of this? But then when you really break it down and look at things one by one, it kind of focuses you to like pause for a second, realize that not everything needs to get done immediately. And then if you like number your to-do list in order of what's important, it helps to avoid feeling overwhelmed, because it's like a reminder to yourself that you don't have to do it all at once, and you have time, you can breathe, and it will all be okay in the end. So I think tying into that too is just like setting realistic goals. So, it's nice to have big goals and to think that you can accomplish everything quickly and perfectly all in one swoop, but that's not always the case. Things come up, life happens. It could
progress,
be
not perfection.
Exactly. It can feel disappointing, but picking yourself up after maybe like you don't do something perfectly or miss one of your goals doesn't mean it's over. Set smaller, realistic goals to help you progress through your studies, through your life. Celebrate the small wins to keep yourself motivated, and really take the time to like acknowledge that you're trying and you're doing your best, and know that it's going to work out in the end and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think a big thing is maybe the number one obstacle for almost anybody is just being too hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. There's nobody on the planet who is good at everything. It just doesn't exist. And most people are not good at a lot of things. So if you feel like maybe you're not good at a lot of things, that doesn't mean that you can't be successful. I would probably guess that you are very good at a lot of things, but just even having that mindset, just, you got to break away from it. We have every year at the beginning of the year, which we'll get to soon, we try to reset our mindset, because having that feeling like, I can't be successful right there. If you are saying that to yourself, just turn that right off. It isn't true. Yeah. It is in no way true. You absolutely can. And a lot of it just starts with believing that you can. As corny as that sounds, it is step one. So I think that's another really good point that you brought up.
Well, Rose, that was a good segue into our next topic on staying focused and staying motivated. So we all know staying focused is a huge hurdle, because even if you do set aside time, you work out your calendar perfectly, you have everything budgeted, you might just like not be into what you're doing in the moment, or be distracted or thinking about something else or worried about something else, and it's hard to stay focused. And if you're doing something, like if you're studying for a long stretch of time, your mind can start to wander. You might not absorb everything you need to.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, bless you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Sneezing in space is very troublesome, I think.
I can't believe I'm not floating away.
Like a rocket.
Yeah. Anyway, see, distraction right there. So when you have a loud, bustling distraction, like a sneeze or loud people in your house, that could prevent you from focusing on your schoolwork. So, Rose, what are some tips to stay focused and stay motivated to keep going and meet your goals?
Well, I think one thing is carve out some you time and some you space. So have a space that's your own. Don't let anyone touch it. Don't let your kids scribble their markers on that space. This is your space. It's your special little happy place. Even if you have, just like we've said in the past, like a corner of a room, make it your own. Have it be as cozy and comfortable, or maybe not cozy, depending on how you like to study. Keep that for you. And just designate that to you so that you have a place to go and you have a place to go make your goals happen. Keep work and school separate if you can. I know a lot of people like to study on their lunch breaks. I think that's fine. It's still separate. But as far as if you're working from home and you have a study space and a workspace, you're going to feel awfully overwhelmed in that space. So just try to keep it all, at least, even if you are using the same space, try to at least have different areas of that space for the two separate things. Keeping trying to kind of turn off the work if you can. I know that's so hard to do, but to allow yourself the time to study. It's one of those things that Lauren was saying about prioritizing. when we look at things in life as far as what our true priorities are, we might have our daily priorities. You know, there's certain like, you know, you need to drink water today. That is a big priority. But even in life, there are big priorities. So you need to take care of your health. That should be your absolute number one priority. But then you have to take care of things like family. And what does that mean? Other priorities like having a career, and having a career might be going to school. So thinking about those main themes in life, those major priorities, it really puts into perspective how important it is to go to school, gain your education, and move on to advancing your career path in any way that you're hoping to do in the future. That's going to make a difference in your life. I mean, it's the same thing as putting an effort into your health. There are certain priorities in life that just mean a little bit more than others. You know, maybe I have bucket list items. It would be nice to complete them. They're not real priorities. They're not at the top of the list. So just knowing the difference between what is a lesser priority and what is a bigger priority, and having goals based on those things, are going to help you stay motivated and keep those, like, why is this important? Think about why it's important. That alone is motivating. I want a better life. I want a better life for my family. I want to feel proud of myself. I want people around me to feel proud of me. I want to make a difference in my family. Maybe I want to be the first person that's ever graduated from college in my family. Those sorts of things are so motivating. So keep them with you because they're important, and they're really part of your identity. So don't forget who you would be if you completed your goal of education. It would be massive in your life. And that right there is your first steps to major motivation. Keep that. Write the notes down. Keep them around in your space. Put alerts in your phone that are just like, hey, if you become a high school graduate, it's going to, you know, you're going to make a huge impact on your kids. Are going to look up to you for that. Or everyone's going to know that you overcome, you know, so many obstacles in order to get where you are today. Those little things that can keep you motivated. And even with health, because I do think health is very important for everyone out there, you could do the same thing with your health. But don't forget, education is so important too. I mean, it's really up there. Remember, it's the same thing. Remember why you're doing this. You probably enrolled. And if you haven't yet enrolled, you're probably thinking about enrolling because you have some major dreams that you want to accomplish. And there's some really big ideas that you want to do. You have a whole life ahead of you, and you want to live life to the fullest. And a lot of times it has to do with finding a better job or gaining an education that you're just learn more about the world. It could even be a hobby. It could be like, this is something that I've always wanted to do. And if I don't do it, I'm always going to know in the back of my head that I didn't do it. And there's something sad about that. There's something very disappointing about that. So just remember why education is important. And that will be super motivating, and make those reminders everywhere, because that's a big thing. But also, once you bring that all into perspective, you have your motivation, there's another way to stay motivated, and that is by celebrating your wins, because everyone deserves a celebration, not just at the end of a long haul, which could be, 4 years of school, or it could be 9 months of a career program. Everyone deserves to celebrate as they go, because you're on a journey. There's no concrete destination. You're on a journey towards bigger and better things all through life. So Lauren, do you want to touch base on what it means to celebrate your wins?
Sure. So number one, if you're watching this, knock on wood, you've survived 2020. So that's an accomplishment.
We are getting but yeah, we're almost to the finish line of 2020, which I think is a place where we want to all get over that hurdle just to see this year gone.
Totally. So, we're at the end of the year. You have a lot going on in your life. You're balancing. You're a student. You might be working. You might be a parent. You're probably a friend, a family member. Like, that's a lot. You have a lot going on. You're trying to budget. You're trying to plan for your life, plan for your career. So if you finish a class, pass a test, meet your study goal for the day, that is a win. And you need to acknowledge that and celebrate yourself for that. You are doing something that is not easy for everyone. It is not easy for everyone to motivate themselves to be a student. There are some people that need to have a teacher yelling at them every day in a physical classroom to get their work done. And that is not you. You are yelling at yourself and getting it done for yourself. And that's a big deal. And you definitely deserve to acknowledge that you are doing something that not a lot of people would be good at and not a lot of people would succeed at, and you're doing it. So that's a huge, huge, huge deal.
Absolutely. We have so many students and grads that are such take the bull by the horns kind of people.
Yeah.
Especially for other people, I think. It's always a lot easier to tell someone like, hey, this is what I can do and I can help you. I'll help you get there. And then when you do it for yourself, you're like, there's almost like I don't even deserve this because I should be spending my time helping other people. But it is that idea of that. It's true. Like, our learners are true leaders. Like, you are leading your own path. Of course, there's always support, but you don't have somebody breathing down your neck and saying, you got to be here at 8 a.m. or you need to get this done at this time. It really is up to you. And it really does, as you're learning, you're also gaining these skills of time management and also how to lead your own way and how to become a leader yourself. So it's interesting to think about how that is a super cool trait of all of you guys out there, that you can make things happen like that. It's cool.
And if you can make yourself really truly internalize and understand and believe that fact, it's a fact about yourself, then that hopefully will help you boost your confidence, keep you motivated, keep you energized, and you're doing something right. Just like I'm telling you right now, if you're watching this, like, you are doing something right. So feel good about that. And one more thing is we run our Penn Foster social media, so we love giving shout outs. So if you accomplish something like setting up a cool study space, of course, getting your diploma, getting a job, getting a promotion, learning something new, taking really good notes, anything that you feel proud about, share it with us, post it, tag us, let us see it. We feel so good when we see those things and can help you share those things and get a shout out for those things, because they are a big deal and you are a big deal.
And if you're someone who likes to help other people, don't feel like you're bragging by sharing those things. You are 100% helping someone else seek education, stay motivated. It's amazing how engaged our students and grads are, and those thinking about becoming students, with people who have accomplished things. Like, it is so motivating to see. Yeah. So please share with us. It makes everyone at Penn Foster feel great. It makes the whole school feel great. It makes all of these people out here, watching your achievement feel great and feel motivated and inspired by you. So don't feel like it's a brag. It is, but also, like, go ahead and brag because it's awesome.
Yeah, totally.
But you're also making a difference. You are making a selfless difference in doing that. So be sure to celebrate your wins, because it's contagious, and then more people will win around you.
Definitely. Well, guys, thank you again for joining us today. We hope that some of our secrets will help you be a successful student. If you have any more to share with us, please leave us a comment or a message, and do so. We love to hear from you guys always. We wish you all the best. Thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us as always. And we will see you next year.
Yeah, have a safe and happy holiday season. Have a very safe and happy holiday season from your Penn Foster family. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. See ya.